Hi, folks. Welcome to the first live ever. I'm genuinely excited to start this new journey. It almost feels like I'm back to the beginning and we are again on episode one. Or maybe just me that I'm a bit nervous, but please stay with me because I'm going to make it very, very enthusiastic. And I think I have the great or the best guest for this new chapter. The person I have today is someone I have collaborated in a couple of different platforms. One is Guerra de Informação or InfoWars Brazil, where I discuss politics and social issues on a weekly basis with numerous people, and I invite you to have a look yourselves. Another one is Christians for Israel Italy, where the guest that I'm going to announce in a few seconds is one of the main people. So stay with us. I think it's very, very interesting, especially if you are into the Israeli topic, which is something we touched based many, many times in the past. So his name is Marco Alexander, probably not a surprise for those who follow Guerra de Informação or InfoWars Brazil. He is half Italian, half Irish, which I think is a very cool combo, and we're going to explore that. He lives in Israel, in the capital of Israel, just to make it more precise, because he's very keen about it. So he lives in Jerusalem. He's Jewish, obviously, so he did Aliyah. And he has a background in philosophy, like myself. And he works mostly as a tour guide. So I think he's a great he is a great orator. He has excellent verbal skills and has a knowledge that it's endless. So stay with us because it's going to be very, very exciting. So without any further delays, I'm going to bring Marco to the studio. Hi,
Good
Marco.
evening, Vito.
Welcome to the
How are you?
podcast.
Thank you
Good.
so much.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Yeah. So you were just discussing before going live that it's now 1 year since the October the 7th. So it's now I don't like the
Indeed.
word, but let's call it the anniversary because calendars are calendars.
Yes,
And
yes.
I would like to get your insights on how Israel is doing. I know you are currently in Italy, but your family is in Jerusalem, so you have close contact with the country from
Indeed.
different angles. And you were also interviewing yesterday someone I had in this show, Adele Rummer.
Right.
So I would like you to take me and the audience through those two topics, just as a starting point.
Well, certainly the anniversary of the 7th of October is certainly a watershed in Israeli history. We're talking about two distinct periods now. I think historians will discuss it in terms of what obtained before the 7th of October and what after. We're living in a very different world now where many illusions were shattered with regard to the neighborhood we live in, a very violent and unstable neighborhood, and people were brought back down to earth in a very violent way. Um, the the 7th of October marked the end of the Oslo delusion. Okay, that was a worldview whereby it was deemed possible to make peace with an enemy who was bent on the destruction of the Jewish people. Unfortunately, many people practiced upon the Jewish people, and I'm talking about not just abroad, but also in Israel, a part of the leadership practiced an act of fraud whereby this could take place. Namely, the basic premise was if only territory was ceded and they were allowed to build their own state, then peace could be had. Okay, so this sleight of hand had been going on for a very long time. The mask has been firmly brought down from this character, and people now understand the reality of the neighborhood. It all came crashing to the ground. the illusion came crashing to the ground on the 7th of October. So we're in a very different state of affairs now.
So is it fair to say that there is a before and after, and it's something that you perceived as well by talking to Adele yesterday?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Even people that were positioned on the left, the so-called peace camp, now realize that we're dealing with a monster. Palestinism is a monstrous ideology. First and foremost, it's monstrous with regard to the Jews, and it has also ruined the lives of many decent Christian and Muslim Arab speaking people who would have wanted coexistence, because Palestinianism has poisoned the environment. It's something that it wasn't conceived for peaceful coexistence. Bear in mind, the whole notion of a Palestinian people is a 60s construct created in the early to mid 60s, okay, before Israel took control of Judea and Samaria. And it was created for the sole purpose of destroying the Jewish presence in the land of Israel. It has no other objective. Up until 1967, as you all know, Jordan illegally occupied Judea and Samaria. For some people know it as the West Bank. Okay, and there was no clamoring for a Palestinian state when Jordan controlled Judea and Samaria and when Egypt controlled Gaza.
Yeah, I hope people are taking notes, because there is so much ignorance these days that maybe some are surprised, maybe some are fact checking your comments on Google or on Wikipedia. Now, I wouldn't rely much on Wikipedia these days because I think it's contaminated by activists. So if someone out there is relying on what is in Wikipedia, maybe check other sources. Would you
Indeed.
agree with me that Wikipedia is something very much ambiguous,
It,
to say the least?
yes, it lends itself to manipulation because basically anybody has access to it. So even people in bad faith or ignoramuses can let's say fiddle with it.
But let me go back to your personal experience. So when the barbaric attacks of the October 7 took place, were you in Israel or in Italy, just to begin
No,
with?
no, I was in Israel. I've only been in
So,
Italy now for just about 2 weeks. I came 2 weeks ago. So for the duration of the war, I had been in Israel. I
so
was
how was
there.
October 7 for you? Where were you? How did you get to know?
I
How
was
how
at
did
I,
you
w-
react?
I was at home. It was a Shabbat. We heard the alarms, and then rumors started filtering through that something unprecedented was taking place. Something on a scale which we hadn't seen before. Truth be told, many of us had foreseen this because with the Palestinization of the conflict, with admitting terrorists into the country subsequent to the Oslo Accords, many of us had envisaged a bloodbath. Many people turned the other way, but a significant number of people whom, let's say, the establishment tried in one way or another to silence got it right. And as we see now, the chickens have come home to roost.
Yeah. So was it hard to believe for you, or was somehow predictable that something could happen? Probably not at this extent, but where were you among the crowd?
No, no, I foresaw that something of this sort would happen.
Okay.
I read that the writing was on the wall. Nothing but this could happen. Look, I and others have been following what goes on in the Palestinist media, not the Palestine, in the Palestinist media, in the so-called moderate PA. I visited these areas. I've worked in these areas. I've seen what they transmit on television, the programs for children, and it's nothing but genocidal. Qualitatively, it is no different from the Nazis. It's probably worse.
Yeah,
probably
with
worse.
with technology, I would say, because
Well,
they,
with technology and also their intent. Of
yes,
course, technologically, we're 80 years on from the Nazi period, but these people, their intent, because the Nazis tried to hide it to a great extent. This is explicit. Need only read the textbooks in the moderate Palestinian
mm,
Authority to understand that these people have genocidal intentions. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't decent people there. There are decent people there, but they don't have the courage because they will be severely punished should they go against the grain. And we know that this happens as well.
yeah, yeah. There's a big difference between the Nazis, because the Nazis, they were rather quiet. I think it's also the way to do the German ethos. They like to do things
Yeah.
silently, and the silent it
Yeah.
is, the better. They don't
Yes.
want to provoke
Yeah.
noise, and there's some pleasure about doing things behind the scenes, behind the curtains. Whereas for the terrorists, they enjoy the show. They enjoy
Oh,
being on the stage. The
absolutely.
more they are exposed, the
Yes.
the nicer it is for them.
Yes, they were shooting all this stuff themselves with their GoPro cams. There's an abundance of videos and clips that they themselves shot. They've left us the evidence. Notwithstanding this, there are people in Ireland and other countries that are trying to deny that this happened, but it's all recorded on film. These are very much like Holocaust deniers,
Yeah,
okay? They've worked up this barrier of hatred and hatred that they're incapable at this stage of managing facts, and they don't let facts get in their way.
yeah. It's a level of stupidity that it's far hard
Mm.
to believe, but that's
Self-induced to a great extent.
yes,
Self-induced stupidity.
yeah. So outside of Israel, I think the world reaction maybe surprised some, maybe confirmed the expectations of others. How were you on this? Were you just saying to your people, your community? So you see how anti-Semitic the road is, or were you shocked with the reaction?
Shocked by the reaction whence
By the
when
road itself, like let's say when Israel responded, and and most people say now they need to investigate it first before taking action. So there's a lot of backlash. I think from the 8th or 9th of October, the road
mm,
turned on Israel. They said, no, you need to first clean the house, and maybe, and it's still a maybe, you can reply.
sorry, I haven't quite understood the thrust of your question.
Yeah, like in terms of how the road itself reacted, like I think there's a lot of anti-Semitism with the protest
Yes.
in the
Yes.
US saying Israel it's not prepared to respond. Israel should be very careful because they don't know exactly
Yeah.
how did it happen. Maybe it's an
Yeah.
inside job. So there was a lot of
Oh yes, yeah,
various.
well,
Yeah,
yes. If we're talking about conspiracy theories, this,
yeah,
that, and the other, this is very much par for the course. People are trying to blame Israel for this. Of course, they will now say one of the ways they deal with this is that, but this didn't happen in a vacuum. What happened
mm,
before that? Okay, and they talk about occupation, this, that, and the other. Israel stupidly withdrew from the Gaza Strip in 2005. Okay, the moral of the story is when Israel cedes territory and withdraws, terrorism takes its place. Okay, this is the moral of the story.
so we can say it's nothing new. Every time Israel walks away, there's something bad in the pipeline.
Yes, very much so. It's a recurrent theme. Okay, every time Israel withdraws, there's mayhem, and I'll go even further. Okay, first of all, we had the Oslo Accords and Israel's withdrawal from Judea and Samaria and subsequently Gaza. What happened there? You have the corrupt PA with its incitement, of course, and its oppression of its own people, basically, as well. It is a corrupt regime. All the money that the European Union has fed into the PA lines the pockets of the PA, and it doesn't go anywhere else. with the exception of the pay for slay policy. Okay? Because the PA pays the families of terrorists who commit acts of murder on the Israeli population.
Mhm.
Okay, this is documented. This is
Yeah.
not make believe. The European Union are aware of this, yet they turn a blind eye. So, in other words, with your taxpayers' money in Ireland and Portugal and Italy, that's where it goes.
Yeah, and it's surprising that people are not upset about it because there's so much to be done in Europe, as we all know.
Indeed.
Just to move the
Indeed.
topic to Europe, they see the roads, they see the infrastructure is falling apart, they see
Oh,
that,
yes, yes.
there's a lot to be repaired, and safety. It's a serious issue. So, like, you could invest in authorities, you could invest in transportation. I mean, we could be
Absolutely.
here for an hour just tell how much
Absolutely.
societies in the West can be developed, even though we are
Mm,
ahead of of most of the road. But then
mm.
the road goes to those guys. Then they do what we all know, and people still turn a blind eye. And why is that, in your opinion? Why people have this sympathy for Palestine?
Well, there are a number of reasons for that. There are a number of strands to this. First of all, they people have a problem with the idea of nation states nowadays, and Israel is a nation state par excellence. Okay, whereas nationalism, the notion of the nation state, is frowned upon in Europe. Israel very much values that. Okay, Israel is a great national project. Okay, there is, of course, the fact that many people find it a convenient way to channel their prejudices, whereas anti-Semitism is a rather tricky ground to tread upon. What they do is, with another sleight of hand, is to channel their anti-Semitism through anti-Zionism. Okay,
Hmm.
this is another element. We could go on. There are many strands to this. There is, of course, one has to now, of course, speak about the huge Muslim populations in Europe that have imported their prejudices and influenced the democratic process as well. Okay, there are votes to be had there. Okay, and if you're not anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, you will not gain those votes. This is a very delicate subject, unfortunately, for many politicians in Europe, because they obviously people will say, but not all Muslims are like that. And certainly all Muslims are not like that. There are many decent Muslims, but unfortunately, it's the thug element which holds sway. It defines the agenda. Okay, so they're doing us a disservice, not just to Jewish people and to themselves, but also to decent Muslims as well, who are afraid to, let's say, come out.
Yeah, yeah, to come out. Talking about Ireland, so you lived here. Was it in the 80s?
Yes, I lived in Ireland up until the mid 80s, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were here, were you already foreseeing the level of anti-Israeli feeling that is that common on the news, on universities, institutions, or before it was a bit more discreet?
It was certainly more discreet, and it hadn't reached the levels of hysteria it's reached now in the media. Now, I'm not sure what the man in the street thinks. That, to be perfectly honest, I don't know that at the moment. Certainly, we know that academia, the judiciary, and the government is informed by this animus towards Israel. When I was growing up, the Irish people were certainly very decent people, very fair-minded people. That's my recollection, and even when I go back, that's my general feeling. It's basically the chattering classes that poison the
Hmm.
atmosphere. And then again, normal people, the man in the street, will be influenced by the chattering classes. So it will have some effect. But generally speaking, Irish people are pretty decent people. They're fair minded and generous people.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think if I talk to the average Joe on the street, they are
Mm,
fine with Jews, they are fine
yeah.
with Chinese, they are fine with Indians. They don't have
Mm,
any problem, you know.
yeah.
But when it comes to public speaking, then they probably hesitate because they are afraid of consequences. Like most people are cowards,
Indeed.
so if they start to measure what are the repercussions of
Mm,
diverting from what is the main opinion, they will think twice and they will just go along with what is the fashion just
mm,
because they're afraid. So I think from
indeed.
heart they are not anti-Israelis, they are not anti-Jews, they are not anti anyone. Just they feel that there is a trend, and to protect themselves and their families and even their income, they will say, "Yeah, I'm with Palestine because I saw an article
That's right.
yesterday
That's
that
right. That's right.
Israel killed 100 people, so I'm
Yeah.
against cruelty." And
Yes,
that's
of
all they
course.
say. That's all they
That's
say.
right.
I
That's
think
right.
if the
It's
trend will be
understandable.
yes,
They are bullied.
yes,
They could well lose their livelihood if they commit themselves beyond what is deemed acceptable.
yeah, and that's I think that's very scary. That I
Mm,
think we're comparing how was the society in the 80s versus now. Okay,
mm,
and to me, what I found really terrifying is that the system is sophisticated to a level that if you speak out, you are in trouble. And I think the one
mm.
of the reasons is because there are many channels, there are many platforms, and on top of that, they can listen you in basically everywhere. Whereas
Yes.
before, I
Yeah.
think there were a way more. I hate the term, but a safe place. There were
Yeah.
way more of that.
Yeah.
I know they promote that. Okay, you can be yourself, blah blah blah. But I think it's
Mm,
more and more the opposite because you
mm.
can be yourself as long as your colors are not against the shirt,
That's right.
of
Yes.
the system.
That's right. That's right. I agree with you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So back to the 80s. So if you would tell that you were Jewish, you wouldn't feel any hostility from people.
No, no, there were occasions when people were unpleasant. I can't deny that. But on the whole, 90% of people were pretty decent. You do encounter the odd idiot. I encounter that here. Why shouldn't I encounter that in Ireland?
Hmm.
There were instances, but it was never a big. There were no pogroms. It was no big deal.
Yeah, I think 89% is not bad. Huh?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
If I think about humanity, it's not bad. Doesn't matter if
That's
it is
right.
the 80s or these
Mm.
days. And at what age did you move to Italy?
I moved to Italy in the mid 80s. In the mid 80s.
Yeah, can I ask
Yeah.
you how old were you?
How old was I? Well, do the maths. I was born in 1964.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, yeah.
something
Do
new.
I look younger? Of course, but
You do. Yeah, exactly. That's why I have to ask. So you were about 20. Okay.
20-ish. Yeah, yeah.
How was
19.
the transition from Ireland
No,
in
there
the
was no
80s to in
question.
the 80s?
There was no question of a transition to Italy because I grew up fully bilingual. A lot of family members here. I had more family in Italy than in Ireland. In Ireland, basically, I had very little.
Hmm. Do you lean more towards Italy or Ireland?
It's hard to
Don't say
say. A
50.
bit of both.
Don't say 50% because that's very political. Huh?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. No, I suppose there are bits of both. Bits of
Hmm.
both. Bits of
So if
both.
there's a sports game between Ireland and Italy, where is your heart
Oh, I'm not
leaning?
sure. I have a heart.
It's I'd say it's leaning for Israel. Whatever serves
Well, yeah, Israel.
Israeli.
Yes, yes, of course. Israel was an active decision. Of course, that is. My heart is very much in the east.
So
Both.
you have a heart because you just said 2 minutes ago.
After all,
You,
yeah. I'm like
there's
the
actually
tin. Yeah,
there's
I'm like
actually
the
a food.
Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz. I found. I
I like that. I like that. There's
yeah.
actually a football game, Israel Italy. I think tomorrow.
Is
If
there
I,
really? Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I've stopped following football, to be perfectly honest.
Why is that? The
I used to
politics?
be no, no, no. I used to be a fanatic, but I find it's become terribly uninteresting, to be perfectly
Mm,
honest. Yeah, football in the past for me, maybe it's my nostalgic vein, but I think qualitatively it was better in the past. Players were also more interesting people. I didn't have to watch all these tattoos everywhere and
well,
all these pumped up people.
that sounds to me a comment of Italian fan, where Italy, because Italy used to be way, way better, like 10 years, 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, Italy was well, certainly Italian football. The league here was of a higher level many years. Italy dominated during the period of the great Milan team, Milan and
Yeah,
Juventus of the past. Yeah, most of the players were Italian too. That also made it more interesting. I find it distinctly uninteresting when for an English or an Italian team it's is dominated by people. Sometimes they don't even have people from their own countries. So that's ruined it for me to a great
yeah,
extent.
yeah, yeah. Not only football, I'd say. I think it's ruining
Not only
society as such now. Mm,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yes, it is. It's a metaphor in a way for what's going on. Yes, yes.
mm. Let's go back now to Israel. So at some point you did Aliyah to
Yeah.
the to the promised land, and how did that
Hmm.
happen? Was it something that you decided at some point, or it was in your mind for a while, and then
Oh,
you said,
yes. No, it was an idea that I had been playing with for a long time. I always knew that's where I'd end up. Put it that
hmm,
I always there was a sense of predestination. Let's put it. That's the bring out the Calvinist in me, the predestination.
the Calvins? I didn't know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, his
So,
theory of predestination. Yeah.
and did you go directly to Jerusalem, or was there any city on the way?
No, no, no. Directly to Jerusalem. But prior to that, I had actually spent almost 2 years on a kibbutz between the years 89 and 91. So
89.
89 and 91. So it's almost 2 years.
At that time, was the kibbutz still influenced by the Soviet mindset, or not as much?
It was very much run on according to a socialist ethos. Yes, they had they understood that the Soviet Union wasn't necessarily the best patron to have, so there was a disconnection from the Soviet Union. Nonetheless, there were people who were nostalgic for the old Soviet Union. There were even people who had fond memories of Stalin. These the
It's
Bolsheviks were
weird.
very. You have to. Yeah, it's very weird. Bolsheviks were very good at brainwashing people.
Hmm.
We see it today.
Yeah.
You can also see it in Italy. People who were brainwashed during the period of the former Communist Party. Somehow they are unable to disconnect from these preconceptions and from this container of many bad ideas. I'm not saying that communists equal bad people. There were many good communists with good intentions. They didn't fully understand what communism entailed, okay? But there were people, decent people. Many people also thought that communism was a container for other values. For example, I had friends who were who used to go to mass every week, but used to profess to being communists. Okay,
Hmm.
for them it was a way of channeling their Christianity. Okay,
So maybe
and
it's
you
fair
had
to say that the communists are very bad at ruling the economy, but they are excellent at managing their communications to people.
they're very capable, and that's one of the problems we have these days because they basically understood the importance of communication and media and culture, and that's how they consciously took the decision to gain control of culture in Italy for many years, and to a great extent it is a left-wing enclave. culture and
Mm.
television and theater. Very often you hear people, all intellectuals are left wing.
Yeah.
People say this type of thing here. Of course, it's nonsense. Okay, but you will say that. So in Italy, they did manage to penetrate culture. Very often, people were forced basically to become card carrying members of the Communist Party in order to have a career, to pursue a career.
Yeah, that's terrible. I think there is this preconception that if you are intellectual, then you are a left winger. Then if you are rich, you are right wing, and it's both wrong, because
Yes,
I
of
know many
course.
rich
Yeah.
people who are on the left, and I know
Mm.
many intellectuals who are on the right. Just people have these stereotypes, and
Yeah.
I wonder why is that. So, do you believe
Mm.
that the left wing was very much proactive? So they took the universities, they took the press, they took
They
the
understood.
media. Mm.
Yes, yes, they understood the importance of gaining control of the levers of power without necessarily resorting to the democratic process. It's a recurrent theme in many countries. Gramsci, I believe, spoke about this, gaining, penetrating the cultural milieu, okay, the people that define how things are taught in schools, how things are represented in the media. It's a recurrent theme. You see it in every country, in every Western country is facing this problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think on the other hand, the right wing was passive. They thought that it was irrelevant to occupy or to have some presence in those fields. The right
Yes,
wing believed that there was nothing there for them. They could just neglect it, and now they
yes,
are paying a price for being passive.
that's right. The people who were socially conservative left the playing field and did other things.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
now you're right.
the bill is there.
The
Yeah,
yeah, the price is being paid now, of course.
and I believe it's
Now,
not something
I
that.
want to make, so sorry, before I
Mm,
want to make a distinction between a normal, healthy
mm,
left and the loony left, which we have now, because there is a left that's normal, that's concerned, that's concerned for those who are well off. That's a normal left, but we're talking about a left now that is is concerned with trans rights and things that which normal people aren't really that concerned with, or for which they understand the folly of it. Okay, there is
mm,
a normal left. Unfortunately, as well, the normal left is afraid to speak up. It's very
yeah.
often bullied.
Yeah, and what is weird is that, let's say, if you are one of those lunatic leftists, that you all you care is about trans, their
Yeah,
rights,
yeah.
their
Trans and yeah,
existence, and
that's
all that,
right.
and
That's
then you
right.
see a country like Israel, where this is not a problem, by being trans, for the most part, it's not a
Yeah.
problem, at least in
No,
comparison with the neighbor countries. But they will
of
still
course.
fall for Lebanon, for Palestine, for Iran. So
Mm.
it seems that they will be next to the crowd that it's more convenient. So they are just
Yes,
they
yes.
are just politicians in the worst sense.
Oh, yes, yes. I agree with you absolutely on that. Yeah.
So do you think Israel benefits from being a more open society, or they should slow down? That's something I'm questioned
Well,
very
to what
often. I'd like to
yeah,
know your insight.
yeah, it depends what you're open to, doesn't it, as well? Do
Mm,
I think that Israel should follow Western trends with regards to such things as trans and all this? Banning conversion therapy as no, I don't. To be perfectly honest, I don't see the
mm,
need to that. I think Israel should be a tolerant country, and people basically in their what they do in their homes is up to them. But personally, I believe a state should have a scale of values, and Israel is a Jewish state. So, for example, if someone were to ask me, should Israel consider a homosexual couple on the par with a heterosexual couple, I'd say no. Quite clearly, there is a fundamental difference. Okay, people can live together, they can have a civil union and what, but there's no reason why a Jewish state should be expected to consecrate it as a marriage as we understand it between a man and a woman.
Yeah,
But
well,
basically, that's or nor do
no,
I think that this should be taught in schools. I think we have to understand that Israel is a state grounded on Jewish values, more or less. We're not talking about establishing a state whereby people are coerced into observance, but it is a Jewish state with Jewish rhythms, with Jewish holidays. So I think that's the inspiration we draw for the creation of the state.
yeah. Otherwise, it will be a huge contradiction. Why would you call it the Jewish state of Israel, where so many things are allowed or at least welcome?
Yes,
It will
well,
be a paradox.
that's right. I think there's a difference between tolerance and celebration.
Yeah,
Okay. I think we have to draw this distinction. Israel tolerates many things. Trans people do what they want, basically, but there's no reason why one should expect the greater public, the collectivity, which is traditional, to celebrate it. And
mm,
it shouldn't be imposed upon them. We shouldn't be teaching that homosexuality is on the same level as heterosexuality in a Jewish sense, because quite clearly it isn't.
yeah. Talking of tolerance, I'm going to ask you the $1 million question.
Mm.
I know you like those. So I have to ask you this. Why do you think humanity is and was always this much anti-Semitic? Because it seems it's nothing new. We saw it 1,000 years ago. We saw it in the 30s. Is there like a rationale for that, or it's just speculation? How would you approach that question?
I'm not sure I would approach it. I acknowledge it as a fact. Why it happens, there are many different reasons, and I probably wouldn't be able to give you sufficient reasons for that. It existed before Christianity. It's not as if everything happened with Christianity. To a great extent, Christianity has also distanced itself from that sentiment, the anti-Semitic. Many Christians now are very pro-Jewish. There are, of course, some residual elements which maintain that prejudice. Why does it exist? It exists for many different reasons with different people. It existed in the Hellenic period, so we're talking about the pre-Roman period. It existed in the Roman period, in the Byzantine period, the period of early Christianity. Then it became something. It mutated during the period, the 19th century in Germany. It became a racial thing. So there are many different reasons, and there are many different elements that feed into this. There is, of course, the biblical
Yeah,
element.
it's
Biblically,
it's a very complex.
biblically, yeah, of course, and there are biblical and theological. From the Jewish point of view, there are also theological explanations. The Jews have traditionally been a people that have dwelled alone. Okay, the Jews tend to sort of limit themselves sometimes in their interactions historically, not always, but certainly this increased when the environment was hostile.
Yeah, it's a different hatred. But before I get into that, I just want to thank Marcos for the compliment. So thanks. I'm very happy that you are enjoying the discussion, and I want to encourage the people out there who haven't subscribed to this podcast to subscribe, because as you can imagine, for a crowd like ourselves who are pro-Israel and we are not afraid to say it, there's a lot of backlash, and even the algorithm can be anti-Semitic, if I can make a joke here. So please subscribe, put your like, share with others. That's a huge help. But let me get back to you, Marco, not Marcos, from Marcos to Marco. So do you believe that there is a different hatred towards Jews? Because people talk about hate towards black people, towards gypsies, Chinese, Indians. But it seems to me that it's very specific, the Jew hatred. There's something that doesn't that makes it. I don't know. It's a sentiment grounded in a, I don't know what, a different heart, or
Yes, I
hard to
understand.
say it.
We're in a different order of things. You're right. That
Yeah.
is my sensation too. There is a sort of a derangement syndrome. Okay. Very often in conventional racism, people would hate maybe perhaps another race because they deem them inferior. They didn't
Mm.
want to have anything to do with them. With regard to the Jews, they hate them because sometimes they deem them inferior, sometimes they deem them superior, sometimes they deem them demonic. It is a very peculiar prejudice and hatred. That's true. That's certainly true.
Mm.
Sometimes they're capitalists, sometimes they're communists, sometimes they're
Depends
traditionalists,
on the
sometimes
era,
they're,
no?
yeah, sometimes they're revolutionaries.
Yeah. There is this thing like, we're gonna hate Jews because Karl Marx was Jewish. We're gonna hate Jews
That's right.
because
That's right.
Soros is Jewish, but then
Yeah.
Soros is not the best friend of the Israeli state. But doesn't matter. We're gonna hate both, and
Mm,
the
mm.
and the and Soros hates Israel, but we will still hate both, because
Yeah, yeah.
at the end of the day, I think most people who hate Jews, they hate themselves. That's my theory. They have some
I
self-hate issue.
Yeah, it is a derangement syndrome to my mind. Very often people say, the source of anti Semitism is ignorance. Now, that theory is very easily dispelled. And to that, let's look at the Holocaust period. If we look at the people in Germany, the Geroks, very often they were very cultured people.
Mm.
Unfortunately, also we had philosophers such as Heidegger who expressed anti-Semitic sentiments. He subsequently reneged them, or at least appeared to renege them. Whether one believes it or not, that's another matter. But certainly during the Nazi period, there were many intellectuals who were anti-Semitic, and not just in Germany, in generally in Europe too, and in the United States.
Have you heard of the Nobel Prize, the Portuguese Nobel Prize, Saramago?
Yes, I've heard of him, but I'm not familiar with his work.
Yeah, you're not missing much. and, and I
Okay.
tell you why. He was friends with Arafat.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not the
It's not.
best thing
It's
to
not a.
hear.
It's not a good
No,
calling card. No. No. No.
no.
No.
And
But
he
also,
was,
excuse me, also the Guterres as well, the chair,
I'm
the
sorry, but I was
secretary.
talking about
Yeah.
intellectuals. I was not talking
Oh,
about
okay.
some
You're
idiots,
right. You're right.
So,
Point taken. I stand corrected. I stand
no,
corrected.
actually, they were good friends, Guterres and
Yeah.
Saramago. When
Yeah.
Saramago was around, no wonder maybe Saramago
Mm,
would be a good friend
perhaps.
of
Yeah.
Arafat,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Guterres would be a good friend of Arafat. But Saramago, he was openly anti-Semitic,
Yeah,
and
yeah, he didn't.
even back
Well, like
then,
one must admire his honesty. Perhaps
yes,
if you're going to be an anti-Semite, be open about it. I have no problem with that. I like honest people.
yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
the
No, I'm not
ones.
surprised
Yes,
by knowing you.
the
Yeah,
the one the ones who are more bothersome are the ones who say, "I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just
but what I
anti-Israel."
would hate
Be an
about
honest
Saramago,
anti-Semite. Be an honest anti-Semite.
yes, yeah, that's something. But what I would hate about Saramago, I always had the impression that he used that this anti-Semitic like a card, wasn't it? Like
Yes, yes, yeah.
I'm anti-Semitic,
Mm.
like many intellectuals were in the past. So
Yes,
I think
yes.
he wanted
So
to be
he's a
one of
Nobel.
them.
He's a Nobel Prize winner. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a Nobel Prize. Actually,
Uh-huh.
the literature Nobel Prize was just announced today, and I haven't heard about the writer. It's a South Korean writer who said
Mhm.
something like this: "I have migraines, and because of having migraines, I can be humble." And I'm like, "Am I
Mm.
going to read a book of this person?
Mm,
This
mm,
self
mm.
pity type."
Yes,
And
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
she has a book called The Vegetarian. So
Mm,
I'm not that encouraged. I can already
mm.
see why
Yeah.
Sweden, awarded her the Nobel Prize, because again she goes with the
Yeah.
narrative. Yeah, but maybe her
Well,
books are good.
listen.
So
Well, perhaps I don't know, but bear in mind that Arafat got the Nobel Prize as well. He
oh
shared
yeah,
it with Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Rabin. Um, President Obama got a Nobel Prize, which was purely political. He, without
Yes.
any accomplishments. At least Arafat has accomplishments. He caused havoc, which so there is an accomplishment there, and but
Yeah,
it's
I
it's a
think
very
Trump should. I'm going to say it openly here, just before the elections. Maybe I'm going to lose subscribers with that, but I stand for honesty, like yourself. I think Trump should have won the Nobel Prize for the Abraham Accords.
well. He certainly got greater merits than President Obama, who generally angered everyone, even his Arab allies. He rubbed everybody up the wrong way. Uh,
Yeah, well, yeah, not
mm,
surprised.
mm,
Thinking about the his tribe, I think it's not a big surprise. Look,
mm,
let me ask you something. You talk about philosophers. You also studied philosophy, like
mm.
like myself. You, uh, what was the driver for you to pursue that degree?
Oh, I don't know, just the rigor, I suppose,
Hmm.
and a genuine interest, of course. People ask themselves questions, and I found it very interesting. And it's also something you can transfer to other spheres. There are techniques, and it's a training that you can transfer to other spheres. Obviously, the basic questions: Who am I? Why am I here? Came into it. Not that it answered them, but
I hope you are not
uh,
thinking on the context of this podcast. Why are you here?
no, 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 no. That's purely coincidence.
I know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no. Yeah, so that's it basically. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Fair.
No,
I
I
yeah.
agree. Like philosophy is one of those subjects that you can study and never apply directly. Let's say
Mm,
in your career, like you don't pursue a career of teacher or
mm,
researcher, but you can always um, use it,
mm.
on the background, like
Yes, yes,
in
yes,
most fields. Even if you are saying in a corporate environment, like you can use it
mm,
in discussions, you can use
yes.
it in negotiations, you can use it in strategies to get along with people. It's
Indeed,
always there because end of the day is the basis of life. So you cannot escape. It's one of
that's
these
right.
things that you cannot
That's
escape.
right.
It's always there because everyone
Yeah,
at some point in their lives are going to ask what you just mentioned. Why am I
yeah.
here? What's the purpose of this? What can I do different?
Mm,
Uh, it's it's always there. There's nothing you can do
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It addresses the how and the why questions, even though it doesn't always supply the answers. But it's something. I suppose I had a predisposition for it as well. I think
Mm.
that probably explains it.
So you're now working as a tour guide. And one of the things that we discussed in other
Mm,
platforms was the before and after of the tourists. Let me just unpack that for people. So there
okay.
are certain individuals who visit Israel like they are visiting any other country. And Israel is not one more country, guys. For you who haven't been to Israel, it's very, very different. I know that every country can be special, to an extent, but there is something very, very, very specific about Israel. So one thing you mentioned and highlight, you not only mention, you highlight that sometimes people go to Israel with an idea and they leave with a completely different view of the country. So, what did you encounter on that field?
Yes, so yeah, that's very true what you say. People arrive in Israel with certain preconceptions, and they end up very often negative preconceptions, and they end up going back to their countries with a very favorable impression, a more realistic impression, a more truthful impression, and they end up being ambassadors for the country as well. They see the falsehoods that are represented in the media, in academia. They meet people from all walks of life. Israel is the most slandered state in the world. Okay, it is the most slandered state in the world. When people come, they see a very different reality. They see people working together, getting on, conducting their lives, good social life, people who are friendly, families. There are many children. There's a very high natality rate in Israel. People believe in families. People have a project. People believe in the country. The country is a great project in which everybody is involved. People have a passion for the country. And people understand this. And very often they understand that something has been lost in their own countries.
Mm.
The contrast is quite stark. For example, Israel, you see a lot of children. Then you come back to Europe and you see an aging continent, okay, where people
Oh,
don't have
yeah.
children, and there isn't the same joy and joie de vivre as we have in Israel, notwithstanding all the problems. There is a joie de vivre in Israel which you won't encounter it certainly in Europe.
No, it's gone. It's gone.
Mm. It's
Yeah,
gone.
I
Mm.
100% agree with you. Actually, one of the things that strikes me the most when I go around, not only in Ireland but in Europe in general, is very many children, and most children are not from the country,
Yes,
that you would
yes.
expect. They are, and it's not that they are not from the country where you would expect. They are from different continents. They are
Mm.
mostly from Arab countries or from Southeast Asia or from India. And I mean, I'm not against that. I mean, those families are doing what they think is better for themselves
Mm.
for the
Mm.
community. I'm not here acting like some Chinese dictator saying you cannot
Mm.
have more than one child. Not that,
Mm.
but there is a huge contrast on natality, between the natives and the foreigners, and it's incredible. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, so, just going back to this thing of before and after, is there any role that you guys, to, tour guides can have in that transformation? Let's say when you share insights of the country, the way you present the surroundings.
Yes, yes. I think tour guides in general do a very good job. Generally, tour guides are very enthusiastic about what they do. It's an extraordinary job, I must admit. I never get tired of doing it. I Every time I have a new group, I'm energized. You're always learning something new as well. It's never one way. And then people who have a passion about the country, they want to transmit and convey all this to their guests.
Is it something that you perceive in our colleagues, this sense of mission?
Yes, yes. Not in all, of course, but certainly I believe in a majority. I think they want to be good ambassadors for the country and show the beauty and the joie de vivre that exists there and convey that.
Hmm. That's exactly what I encountered on the tour we just did in Brazil, in Salvador. So
Right.
the guide, I think, was exactly the way you are describing,
Mm.
the way a guide should be. So he was enthusiastic. He cared a lot about
That's
his
right.
words. I think he was
Mm.
paying attention not only to us but to himself. So he was
Yes.
committed. So that's already a good
Yes.
start. If someone is interested in what he is doing,
Yes.
chances are they're going to deliver a better job. I think
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely. You
common
have.
sense. And he made a couple of comments that I don't fully agree with,
Mhm.
about the colonization and all that.
Yeah.
But end of the day, I was not upset because I
Mm.
felt he was trying to give his best. He believed
Yeah.
that people should know certain things. He was
Yeah.
proud of his family history,
Mm.
and that's fine. And I don't think he was biased. I think he just wanted to be
Mm.
passionate and
Yeah.
transmit an energy that people would understand not
Mm.
exactly what they were seeing, but how
Yeah.
things were, say, 200, 300, 400 years ago.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, I think that a tour guide has a lot of responsibilities, and I think it suits you because you like to talk, you like to engage with the public. So I think it suits you.
Yes.
And what kind of
Yes.
philosopher traits would you use in your job?
Sorry, could you repeat the
What
question?
what kind of uh, philosophical traits would you use in your job? Say
Uh,
the way you
Philosophical.
communicate. Yeah.
Oh, well, I tend to ask and answer questions. I tend to
Hmm.
look at processes and analyze, ask the where, why, how questions. generally, and engagement is very important. Engagement with the personalities and with the landscape. Okay, I try to paint a picture. Okay, I try to get people to see that what they see is telling us a story. So I try to get people to think. That's my, to not be passive,
Yeah,
not just to be spoon fed. There has to be engagement and
both
interaction.
ways. Yeah, it has to be
Yeah,
both ways, as you said.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Talking of both ways, and as we come into an end, so Israel is now fighting all fronts. For people who don't know,
Mm.
it's Gaza, it's West Bank, it's the Houthis, it's Lebanon, it's
Syria,
Iran,
it's
Syria.
Iran, it's
So it's
Iraq,
Iraq.
and and a villain which people seem to forget all too easily, Egypt. People should realize that the arms that Hamas receive come from across a
Mm,
border which is controlled by Egypt. And tunnels have been constructed in the best case scenario with the with the knowledge of the Egyptians, and in the worst case scenario with the complicity and participation. Okay, and we know, we have intelligence reports that high and important people in the Egyptian government have been involved with this, people connected with the Egyptian government. So we have to be very careful about one of the so-called peace partners, one of the so-called moderate states.
well, that's a massive fact. I think most
Yeah.
people were not prepared for this. I mean, even
All it
myself, I'm,
well,
I'm not
well,
shocked, but
yeah, okay, but bear in mind, all you have to do, it's very simple. It's very simple when you think about it. Gaza has a border with
yeah,
Egypt. Egypt has built a wall there. It is manned by Egyptian personnel. And do you think they didn't know what was going on all these years when tunnels were being bored?
of
We're
course they
talking
knew.
about high level. We're talking about high level civil engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of them they were aware. I mean, they couldn't just be next door and have no clue
Absolutely.
about it.
Absolutely.
It's maybe they
Ab-
didn't know like it was that large, but
Absolutely.
they knew
The
something.
extent, yeah.
The extent, yeah.
People who were supposed to know, generally speaking, knew, and they turned a blind eye, as it were.
I know it's very hard to predict, but at this point, how do you foresee the outcome of this fight with all the enemies and with Iran?
Israel will prevail. Okay, obviously there's going to be a price to pay, but Israel will prevail. I think people should rest assured that Israel will prevail. Now, after the initial shock of the 7th of October, Israel has been gradually steadying the ship. Okay, I think we have a very capable prime minister, a very good wartime leader, and he's been cautious but also daring at the same time. I think he's struck a correct balance. Now, I haven't always agreed with what he's done, but I certainly think he's the right person at the right time.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you 100%.
We
Just to
agree with us on
finalize,
it. You agree with me on everything.
yeah, I would agree with
Great
it,
minds think alike. Great minds think alike. Let's not.
except with your interest for AC Milan, but we didn't explore
No, no, no. I'm
football
not
that
interested
much.
in AC. I'm not AC. I'm not. Not AC Milan.
I know this.
The team of my heart is Tottenham. Okay,
Fine, fine, fine. Yeah.
Tottenham. But unfortunately, Tottenham has been a bit of a sob story for the past 40, 50 years. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I was actually
Maybe
at the pub.
maybe that explains my disaffection with the game of football.
It's not only it's not only Italy.
Now
It's
you know the
also
real reason. Now you know the
no,
real
not the real
reason.
reason. I was actually on Sunday after the memorial of Gio next to the Israeli embassy. So here in Dublin, we went to the pubs, have a couple of drinks and fun and
Right,
food,
right.
and Spurs were playing with Brighton. And
Now you know. Now you
Spurs
know
were,
that.
and I'm a Spurs fan myself. I mean, not
Please
a
don't rub.
surprise.
Are you a Spurs fan as well?
I am a Spurs fan as
Oh,
well, of course.
fantastic,
Yes, yeah,
fantastic. A fellow sufferer, a fellow
yeah.
sufferer.
Fellow suffer, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I don't pay much attention these days, but yeah. So we were winning 2-0
yes, I
against
know.
Brighton, which is the what I
Yeah,
call the woke FC,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
wokest team in England.
Is it really?
And
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
and England, sorry, and Spurs were winning 2-0, and they
2-0. Yes, I agree.
finished
Yeah,
losing 3-2.
that's right. That is Spurs. Yeah. That's why we love them.
Yeah, sorry, love them. Yeah, yeah.
It's a team
There's
for
someone,
masochists.
yes, not almost like Manchester United. They say there's someone saying, so a guy called, sorry if I don't know how to pronounce your name, a guy, or I think it's a guy, Daphne Carzio Alexander.
Yes,
Can you
she's one
join
of
the
my
discussion?
greatest fans. She's one of my greatest
It's a
fans.
she, okay. She's one of your fans.
Yes, yeah.
I'm sure you have many because, someone born in 64 and appears to be
One of
born
my
in
greatest
84.
friends when I'm not around. When I'm not around, she's one of my greatest fans.
But so you think Israel will provide, but will pay a price? And do you expect Israel to target Iran directly? And if they attack,
Yeah,
would they
yeah.
attack specific individuals, the nuclear plant? What would be your guess?
Well, I can't really say, to be honest. I think all those possibilities are fair game. Put it that way. At this stage, yeah.
Okay, let's finalize with this. Something I asked last time I had someone here living in Israel, which seems like ages ago, because 2 months since I recorded my last podcast. I was traveling, I was sick. I mean,
I
a
see.
lot of
I
things,
see. I see.
lot of things happened. But anyway, tell me. I know it's not the easiest time to tell this to people, but I think we need to jump into this topic. What would be your word of encouragement for someone to visit Israel?
My word of encouragement for people to visit Israel, I think people should visit Israel to find out who they are. Israel is essential to their identity and their whole being. It is one of the pillars of Western Judeo Christian civilization. Okay? So it is simply a must. And I think it will be a reinvigorating visit. Okay?
I think that's massive marketing. So I think if you are struggling to get tours, Marco, you can pursue marketing, because I think with that slogan, you'll be able to move masses to Israel.
I'm full of slogans.
Well, not as much as the Palestinians. Huh? I'm sorry to say, they are ahead of you because they are very talented. They are very good at slogans, so they're unbeatable.
Wonderful.
Again, like the communists, with the communication.
Yes.
They're cousins. So
that's well. That is a theme we can explore, because Bolshevik propaganda techniques and the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood is very much what shapes Palestinist ideology. Okay, so we find the marriage of the two and gives birth to the Palestinian people in the 1960s.
So that this is a topic we are going to explore in the next episode. Yeah, because this one is already above 1 hour. Not surprised, because I know that every time we talk, time flies, which is, I think, a great feeling. So I enjoyed 100% this conversation. It's always
only
an
100%.
absolute pleasure.
Only 100%.
Trying to be modest.
You're right.
Not to be exaggerated for once. But people tell me, "Oh, you're always exaggerated. You with this Latin trait." So yeah, I would say 100%, but it's probably 1,000%. Every zero counts in this case.
Indeed.
So what's great, and I want to say to people out there, I hope you had a fabulous time listening to. But if you don't agree with us, it's fine. Put that on the comments. We are happy to answer. So we are here for open debates, free speech. We want everyone to think by themselves and be able to speak their minds and have a very frank discussion, and that's what we are here for. I just want to tell people, if they enjoy it, please put a like. If they didn't like it, put the comment in the comments box. If they want to give a compliment, we are also happy with that. If you feel that there's someone that missed this discussion, please share it. There are many channels for that. There's Facebook, there's WhatsApp, there's Telegram, there is Instagram, there is, I don't know, I'm not going to name them all because we'll be here forever, but please share it with your crew. And I also want to say that next Tuesday, so the 15th, I'm going to have here a football manager. So we're going to talk about football, which is something I haven't talked in detail, but and maybe Marco will be watching us, and
I'll certainly be watching.
and writing comments. So
now that I've discovered that you're a Spurs supporter, it's a must.
we can share the depression pill. So
that's right.
So we're all going to have now a half bottle of whiskey, myself and Marco separated, just to digest Spurs season. And I hope you guys are outside can enjoy yourselves differently. So, and see you soon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
That's it.